If God is truly all-powerful, why doesn't he simply eliminate Satan? Why allow the existence of a being that represents evil, opposition, and suffering? This is a question that troubles many of us, and it has been debated for centuries by theologians, scholars, and people of faith. After all, if God created everything and is sovereign, couldn't he just erase Satan from existence? In this video we're going to explore these questions in depth. We'll look at who Satan is and trace his journey from heaven to becoming the adversary we know. We'll see what the Bible reveals about his rebellion, his fall, and how he transformed from an angel into a symbol of evil and destruction. But beyond that, we'll try to understand why, despite all of this, God allows him to continue to exist. Our journey will lead us to reflect on themes like pride, free will, and the role of evil in God's plan. Could it be that Satan has a purpose in God's design? And how does free will, both for angels and for humans, play an essential role in this story? Today you'll discover that the reasons for Satan's existence go much deeper than they may seem. So, get ready to dive into this reflection on the great questions of good, evil, and God's greater purpose. The Bible describes Satan as a being who, before his fall, was an angel of great beauty and perfection, created directly by God. He held a high position in heaven, a place of honor and closeness to the Creator. But something changed. Pride began to grow in his heart. He started to desire a position equal to or even above God's, as though creation itself sought to rise above its Creator. Jesus himself mentioned this crucial moment. He said, "I saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning." This powerful, vivid image helps us understand what happened when Satan was cast out of God's presence. Satan's fall wasn't just physical but spiritual. He went from being a being of light to one of darkness, from an angel of God to humanity's greatest adversary. This fall was more than just an expulsion, it represented a complete transformation. By rebelling, Satan not only lost his position in heaven but also distorted his very nature. He went from being a creature of worship and service to God to the ultimate symbol of opposition and evil. This process of degeneration, from angel to God's enemy, serves as a warning to us all about the destructive power of pride and unchecked ambition. What was once an honored angel became God's main adversary, and his fall was so profound that the Bible describes him as the adversary, one who stands against God's purpose. When we hear the name Satan, we immediately associate it with the idea of an enemy, an opponent to good. But what few may know is that the name Satan itself means just that, adversary. And this title is no accident. It reflects the function and identity he took on by choosing to oppose God. Over time, Satan's figure becomes darker, symbolizing the process of degeneration that occurs when someone chooses a path of opposition and pride. The desire to be equal to God not only corrupted Satan but turned him into a symbol of everything that stands against love, light, and truth. Instead of reflecting divine glory, he became the embodiment of arrogance and rebellion. This transformation into the adversary shows us an important concept. Satan is not merely a figure that exists outside humanity, he can also represent the inner struggle against pride and ego. In various biblical passages, we're warned about how pride can lead us to a fall, something that doesn't necessarily mean physical death but rather spiritual disconnection, a separation from God and the peace he offers. So, in understanding the meaning of Satan's name, we see that he is more than just a simple evil character. He is a living metaphor for the destructive effects of pride and disobedience, a constant reminder of what happens when we choose the path of self-exaltation over humility before God. Pride is a recurring theme in the Bible, often treated as a dangerous seed of evil. In the case of Satan, pride was the first step toward his downfall. The Bible warns us in Proverbs, "Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." This truth applied to Satan in a clear and devastating way. By desiring to be equal to God, Satan planted in himself a seed of arrogance that distanced him from humility and worship of the Creator. This ambition didn't just lead him to rebellion, it led to complete ruin. He found himself cast out of heaven, separated from God's presence and plunged into darkness, both external and internal. What started as a simple notion of self-sufficiency became the path to his own destruction. This example of pride and downfall serves as a warning to all of us. Deep down, pride can make us believe we can live without God, that we don't need his guidance or his love. Satan is the ultimate example of what happens when pride takes control. It led a being created in beauty and perfection to become the symbol of evil and destruction. As we reflect on Satan's fall, we're reminded that pride can distance us from God and from the blessings he has for us. This is why humility is so valued in Scripture, because it keeps us close to God and shields us from the inevitable downfall that pride brings. we arrive at one of the most intriguing and profound questions. If God is all-powerful, why doesn't he simply eliminate Satan? Why allow him to continue existing and causing suffering and temptation? The answer involves a deeper understanding of the nature of spiritual beings and God's purpose. Firstly, it's important to recognize that Satan and the fallen angels are spiritual beings, different from humans. While we, as mortal beings, are subject to physical death, spiritual beings exist in a realm beyond physical time and space. They are immortal by nature, created to exist eternally. To eliminate Satan is not as simple as destroying him. He is part of this immortal spiritual order. Furthermore, God's plan includes free will for all rational beings, both humans and angels. God created Satan as a perfect angel and granted him the freedom of choice. Just as he gives us the right to choose between good and evil, God also extended this freedom to the angels. When Satan chose the path of rebellion, God allowed him to follow this decision. But instead of destroying him, God allows Satan to exist as a reminder of the consequences of pride and rebellion. Another key point is that, in a mysterious way, Satan and his actions may serve God's purposes. In various passages of the Bible, we see that evil is used to fulfill God's will in indirect ways. For example, the temptation of Jesus in the desert was a trial that strengthened the Son of God and affirmed his faithfulness. Even Job's suffering, permitted by God, served to reveal the depth of his faith and perseverance as God's servant. God's patience is vast, and his plan is greater than we can imagine. The fact that he allows Satan to continue existing shows us that there is divine wisdom behind this. A wisdom that perhaps we will only fully understand in eternity. This patience is in fact an expression of God's love. He doesn't force anyone to obey him but respects the free will he has granted to all beings. In the end, Satan's continued existence calls us to reflect on the importance of free will and the choices we make. God has given us the right to choose, including the possibility of choosing wrongly. But he also provides us with every opportunity for redemption and reconciliation with him. The Bible provides powerful insights into the nature of Satan and what led to his fall, particularly in the books of Isaiah and Ezekiel. These prophets help us understand what happened in Satan's heart to make him turn against his Creator. In Isaiah 14, we find a passage that many scholars interpret as a reference to Satan. How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. This title, Morning Star, reflects the brightness and beauty Satan possessed before his fall. But what caused this fall? Isaiah reveals that it was Satan's ambition. He said in his heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will make myself like the Most High. This aspiration to be equal to God unveils the deep pride that overtook Satan. He wasn't content to be one of the highest angels. He wanted the supreme position, desiring to rise above all, even above God. This pride led to a rebellion that ended in his expulsion from heaven. Ezekiel adds further detail. In Ezekiel 28, Satan is described as a being created perfect and full of beauty, who was in Eden, the garden of God. But then, as the prophet says, wickedness was found in him. The pride that began as a seed transformed into complete corruption. Satan moved away from humility and obedience, distorting his nature and becoming the ultimate symbol of evil. These passages from Isaiah and Ezekiel reveal that Satan's fall was no accident but the direct result of a deliberate choice. The choice to rebel against God and follow the path of pride and self-sufficiency. Through these accounts, we see that unchecked ambition and the desire to be like God were the causes of Satan's downfall. One of the keys to understanding why God permits Satan's existence is the concept of free will. From the beginning, God created all rational beings with the ability to choose, both humans and angels. He didn't want programmed servants or automatons but beings who could decide for themselves whether they wanted to follow him and love him. This gift of free will is essential for true worship and love for God. Free will means that both we and the angels have the power to make choices, and these choices carry consequences. When Satan chose to rebel, he exercised this free will in a way that distanced him from God. He wasn't forced to disobey, it was a decision he made voluntarily. Similarly, the other fallen angels chose to follow him, fully aware of the risks and consequences. For us, free will is a gift that also places us before daily choices. We can choose to follow God's principles, or we can choose the path of selfishness and self-sufficiency. But, like Satan, these choices have a deep spiritual weight. They can bring us closer to God or separate us from him. Free will is so important to God that he honors even the choices that reject him. He doesn't force anyone to obey. He respects the freedom he himself gave to each of us. And this is why Satan continues to exist. God permits him as a consequence of his choice, a living reminder of what it means to turn away from the Creator. So, free will is more than just freedom. It carries the responsibility of choosing good, God's way. And even in the face of the difficulties and temptations Satan represents, this is our opportunity to show our faithfulness and love for God through our choices. One of the most significant moments involving Satan in the Bible is the temptation of Jesus in the wilderness. After fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, Jesus was confronted by Satan in a moment of extreme human vulnerability. This encounter reveals much about Satan's character and God's purpose in allowing this temptation to occur. Satan approached Jesus with 3 temptations, each designed to exploit a human weakness: physical desire, pride, and the desire for power. He knew that if Jesus yielded, the entire redemption plan would be compromised. Yet, Jesus resisted each temptation, using Scripture as his response. In each situation, he reaffirmed his faithfulness to God, showing that the power of the Word is stronger than any temptation. This moment is crucial because it demonstrates that Satan, though powerful, has no control over those who remain firm in God. Jesus' resistance was not just a personal victory, it was a declaration that evil can be overcome by truth and obedience to God. Jesus showed that by rejecting Satan's empty promises, true strength and purpose come from a life surrendered to God. Additionally, the temptation of Jesus teaches us that even the Son of God faced the challenges and seductions of evil, just as we do. This shows that God understands our struggles and that, just as Jesus overcame, we too have the ability to resist. Jesus' victory over Satan in the wilderness is a powerful reminder that we can choose good, even when evil seems appealing or convenient. Finally, this passage reminds us that Satan can try to lead us astray, but he cannot force us to follow his path. Just as Jesus did, we can choose to reject his lies and keep our faith and trust in God. In conclusion, we must reflect on God's purpose in allowing evil to exist and how this fits into his greater plan of redemption. Although Satan symbolizes rebellion and opposition to God, the Bible shows us that even evil can be used to fulfill divine purposes. God has the power to turn Satan's malicious intentions into something good and redemptive. A clear example of this is the crucifixion of Jesus. Satan incited Judas to betray Jesus, thinking this would be the ultimate victory over the Son of God. But this betrayal led to the sacrifice that brought redemption for all humanity. What Satan intended for evil, God transformed into an opportunity for salvation for all of us. This shows us that God's love and wisdom are so profound that even the worst intentions can be redeemed to fulfill his greater purpose. This principle applies to our own lives. We all face challenges, temptations, and sometimes even suffering caused by evil. But by trusting in God, we can see that he is capable of using even these difficult moments to transform us and draw us closer to him. God does not abandon us. On the contrary, he guides us and strengthens us amid trials. In the end, God's patience in allowing Satan to exist is also an expression of his love. He gave us free will and respects our choices, even when we stray from him. God offers us the chance to return, to seek redemption, and calls us to choose the good, just as Jesus chose to resist evil. And in this invitation to faithfulness and redemption, we see God's true purpose. So, when we reflect on the initial question, why doesn't God eliminate Satan, we understand there is deep wisdom in his actions. He respects the freedom he gave us and calls us to choose the path of faith and obedience, knowing that, in the end, good will prevail. If you enjoyed this content and want more reflections like this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. We want to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment on what you think about Satan's role in free will. Every week we bring new thought-provoking content, so stay tuned for more inspiring and deep topics. See you next time.